What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to share with you 10 different ways to fund your startup business. I'm also going to share a behind-the-scenes look at how we raised over $750,000 for MySwimPro. If you're new to the channel, welcome. In this series, I share how entrepreneurs can take their business to the next level. And if you're thinking about starting your business, the necessary entrepreneurial mindset that you'll need to take those first steps. If that sounds interesting to you, make sure you give the video a like and subscribe to the channel for more entrepreneurship best practices. Now let's get started with the video. There's fundamentally 4 different ways that you can fund a business, and the 10 different ways that we'll talk about specifically fit into one of these 4 different categories. Now the first one of the 4 ways to fund your business is revenue. As simple as it sounds, ultimately customers are who are going to fund your business. There's a problem in the market that you are solving, and in exchange for solving that problem, whether it's a restaurant, an application, a B2B service, whatever the business, your customers are ultimately going to pay you some kind of a fee, and that's how you're going to make money. That is one method of funding your business. The second method is through equity. This is essentially selling a piece of your company to someone else, either an individual, an entity, an organization. This is typically what you would see in an investment, something you see on Shark Tank. You're literally exchanging part of the company, an equity investment, cash in exchange for company. The third method is debt. Debt can be a loan, it can be from an individual, it can be through a bank, an institution, a government agency, but essentially you're taking out money with the promise of paying the money back on some specified terms. And the fourth method is through grants. I would consider a grant free money with strings attached. This could actually be free money with no strings attached, depending on the type of grant. It could come from an organization, some kind of an institution, or the government, and there's a lot of different variations of grants that we'll talk about a few of them. The first method that fits within these 4 categories is friends and family. Now, friends and family is probably the most classic way to raise money for your business. We all have that rich uncle, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a friend, someone who believes in your vision, and maybe they don't even believe in your vision, just out of the love that they have for you, they're willing to hand over some cash to let you take your vision to the next level and become a reality. Oftentimes, this is how a lot of people get started in their business. We recognize that not everyone is fortunate to have people around them with these circumstances that they can just hand you cash. If you do, that's great. Take the cash and go with it. If you do take the cash, it is super important that you get good legal advice, because you can get in a lot of troubles if you take $50,000, $100,000, $5,000 from your mom, from your cousin, from your uncle, and there's no legal contract around that. All of a sudden, you might lose the business and they might lose the money. They might not know what they're getting into. Or on the flip side, your business can explode and that $5,000 investment is now worth $5 million. And if there wasn't the right legal infrastructure set in place, you could set yourself up for some huge problems. So if you take any money from friends and family, and really for any of these different categories, it's super important that you get good legal advice. Now, the second method is you open a line of credit or you take a business loan. So this would fall under the debt category. So if you're taking a loan, a lot of things that you got to pay attention to here. You need to have good credit if you're doing anything personal. You might need to have existing collateral, which is oftentimes not the case if you're just starting out. Another thing to keep in mind with like a business loan, in the United States, for example, only 34% of small businesses that are obtaining a loan are doing it through a bank of some sorts, compared to 75% of big businesses. What this basically means is that it's a lot harder for a smaller business that's just starting out to get any kind of a sizable loan, because the bank is not going to feel comfortable lending out some kind of cash if you're just getting started and you have no track record of doing anything, whether that's revenue, traction of customers of any kind. So let's skip to number 2 and go to number 3. Number 3 is potentially the best method. I'm going to quote Gary Vaynerchuk. He says, "Don't raise money, make money." And that couldn't be the more true in any scenario in business. Ultimately, you're trying to transact. There's a problem that you're solving. Figure out what it is, find the solution, and charge money for it. That is fundamentally the best way to raise money for your company. It's the paying customers, because ultimately they are the ones that are going to determine the destiny of your company. If the product or the restaurant or whatever it is that you're trying to sell doesn't really work, it's the market that's going to determine your failure, not the fact that you took out a loan and you have to pay it back because your customers don't really like your product or service in the first place. So obviously number 3 here, revenue, don't raise money, make money, is the most efficient for any kind of business, no matter what. Don't let anyone tell you anything else. Now, of course, the there are startup expenses, and if you want to scale really rapidly, it does make sense to take on additional capital to help you grow even faster, but a majority of businesses are actually bootstrapped, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. The fourth method is to join a startup or business accelerator. Now at MySwimPro, we actually went through 3 different programs like this. I'll highlight them in just a second. But basically, these are a fixed period of time. It's a program. It could be 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. It could be a full year. And in this program, you might get coaching, you might get funding. There might be different kinds of terms associated with the funding. And the whole goal of a startup or business accelerator is to accelerate whatever it is you're doing. These can range at the stage of company. So you might have just an idea, and you're trying to take your idea and take those first steps in customer discovery. There are different accelerators and business incubator programs specifically for that. Maybe you already have a company, you already have traction, you're generating thousands of dollars in revenue, millions in revenue, and there are other accelerator programs that are designed to coach entrepreneurs and help them with the different resources that they have available to solve the different problems that you have. Because when you're just getting started, the problems that you have are completely different than the problems you have when you have 10 employees, 100,000 in revenue, $1 million in revenue, and these different programs cater them. So for MySwimPro, back in 2015, we did the DTX Launch Accelerator at TechTown. This was more the idea stage, trying to figure out customer discovery and really figure out what the heck you're gonna do next. Then in 2016, we did Detroit Startup Boost, part of Techstars Startup Next Global Accelerator Program. It's an awesome program. And then we did, that was no cash on either of those two, no investment. And then the third program we did in 2016 in the summer was the University of Michigan DeSci Accelerator. It was a more traditional, 3-month program. They invested $50,000 in equity into the company. And so more traditional in the format of a technology-backed startup. So there's a lot of different programs that will really help you take your business to the next level. Some of these are local, some are remote. So make sure you do a Google search and figure out which programs are right for you. If you have any questions about this, let me know in the comments. Would be happy to share my experience going through these different programs. 5 is angel investment or venture capital. Now, this is a really tricky one. It really depends on the type of business that you're doing. I'd say number 5 is probably not appropriate for a majority of businesses. If you're trying to start a restaurant, maybe an angel investment might make sense. Venture capital is really reserved for small select group of companies that are trying to scale very, very quickly. They have, maybe it's a technology company that if they receive a $1 or $2 or $10 million investment, can scale significantly later. And the only way venture capitalists will actually make their money back is if the company has an initial public offering, goes public, or they're bought by a much larger company or merge into another company. And there needs to be some kind of a liquidity event. It could be private equity. So to back up, an angel investment is different from a venture capital investment because an angel is supporting the entrepreneur out of their own pocket, meaning this is normally a successful entrepreneur in their own right, or they have money available to them in some capacity, and they believe in you as the entrepreneur. Yes, they want a financial return, but they believe in helping you take your vision to the market and scale. Yes, they want to make money, but they're investing out of their own pocket. A venture capitalist is seeking a financial return, like the angel investor, but they're trying to do that for a fund, meaning they're investing someone else's money. There's on a timeline, maybe it's a 7-year fund, 10-year fund, and is their financial obligation to invest in companies and do things that will put those companies in their portfolio in a position to return capital. Again, that's a little bit in the weeds, but there's a big difference between raising via venture capital and everything else that we've talked about here. Again, in the comments, let me know what you're thinking. Number 6 is probably my favorite. It is either crowdfunding or equity crowdfunding. Now at MySwimPro, we raised over $600,000 through equity crowdfunding. I'll talk about it in just a second. But to back up, crowdfunding is essentially allowing the market, allowing your customers or potential customers to donate or pre-buy your product or service. Let's say you're trying to create a really cool widget and you want to take this product to market, but you need initial startup capital. You need $100,000 to produce this product, but it'll sell. So you can pre-sell and people can pre-buy this product before it even comes onto the market. And whether it's in 6 months or 12 months, when your product is actually built from that initial startup capital, you can put it in the market and those people will have pre-purchased their product. Another way it can be done through crowdfunding, whether it's Kickstarter or Indiegogo or GoFundMe, is a straight donation. So people really believe in your idea and they really want to help you take your vision to life, and they're just willing to donate $10, $15, $20, $100, $1,000 to support your cause. Now, what is equity crowdfunding? Well, thank you to the Jobs Act a few years ago, this became available to publicly solicit funds for an equity investment. Ooh, what does that mean? Basically, as a startup business, you can publicly ask for funds to invest directly into your company, and this was traditionally reserved for what are called professional investors, so people who make over $200,000 per year, over $1 million in assets. And a thank you to the Jobs Act, in the United States at least, now companies can do a Regulation CF, file a Form C with the SEC, and they can publicly solicit funds. At MySwimPro, we did this in 2017 and 2019. So we can publicly ask the market, our customers, or anyone who wants to listen to us, we can publicly say, we are raising money, these are our terms of our deal, and you can invest as little as $100 and own a piece of our company. In 2017, we raised over $130,000 from about 137 investors, and then in 2019, we raised over $460,000 from over 200 investors. Today, MySwimPro has over 300 investors across 36 different countries. So it allows you to open up your audience to investment to an international set of people who really want to support your vision. Absolutely amazing. And of course, WeFunder is the platform that we use. There's a number of different platforms that you can do equity crowdfunding on. I'll link in the description a special promo for all of you. If you check out WeFunder, there's a special link that if you decide to use equity crowdfunding and you set it up on WeFunder through the link in my description, I believe you'll get a 10% discount on the fees. That's how these platforms make money. They take a certain commission off of the amount that you raise. So you get a 10% discount and a 0% setup fee. I'll also include what our campaign page looked like so you can see how we raised over $500,000 through equity crowdfunding on WeFunder. I also have a separate video dedicated specifically on how to raise money through equity crowdfunding and how we raised over $500,000 across 2 different rounds. So definitely highly recommend checking out that link in the description. Number 7, small business grants. Ooh, these are essentially free money. I mentioned it before in grants, but there could be strings attached, and these could come from government, public, private institutions. There might be a program, a small business grant program, whether it's at an institution or the government, and they are essentially handing out cash for some reason to support something else in their organization. So maybe they will allow you to have $50,000 or $100,000 to be spent in a very specific way that supports what that organization is trying to accomplish in the first place. We've often seen this in the sciences, in the medical field. There's a lot of different small business grants for different types of businesses. Some of these are local. MySwimPro received $25,000 grant from the Innovation Fund of America, and in exchange, MySwimPro contributed to that program in a number of different ways. That could be speaking at different events and sharing the story of how MySwimPro used the Innovation Fund of America money to help scale the business. Just one example, plenty of others out there. Number 8 is pitch competitions. This is probably my favorite that you'll be able to find on the internet. This is where you have a Shark Tank-like competition. Maybe there's judges, maybe you have 5 minutes to pitch, maybe there's a Q&A, maybe not, and you're essentially pitching against other companies or just on your own, and you have the potential to win cash. It could be a grant, it could be an investment on certain terms. At MySwimPro, we've won over $100,000 across various pitch competitions in both grants, free money, and equity investments. It's amazing to be a part of these different competitions. You learn so much when you see other companies pitch. A lot of these are in the technology world, but there are pitch competitions for every type of business. There are different restaurant style startups, there's different brick and mortar retail startup competitions, and I encourage you to do your research, and if you find people who have won those competitions, myself included, go ahead and reach out to them and ask them what they did, how they approached the pitch competition, and take a look at their slide deck and see how they raised X amount of money through the pitch competition. Number 9, cash advance from a strategic partner. Now this could be a major customer or partner, and you're similar to the crowdfunding example I gave where you have a widget and you're pre-selling it. You are going to pre-sell your product on the promise that if they give you the cash up front, you will be able to deliver the product. So let's say in your industry, there's a complementary business and they can pay you up front. And by paying you up front, you have the cash to be able to deliver and help their business grow. So an example of this could be an automotive, and a major car company needs to produce a light, and for whatever reason, all the suppliers, they can't produce it, but they know this one company can produce the light. They will pre-buy $10 million worth of lights. The company now that's making the lights has all the money they need to produce the lights for the cars, and the car can go out and ship. That's just one example. It can work on a much smaller scale. Maybe you have a coffee shop and you need a certain resource to be able to do it. You can pre-buy or pre-sell that product to make it happen. And now number 10, how to fund your startup is to fund it yourself. Yes, this is very similar to friends and family approach, but this is truly putting your skin in the game. That's a very common expression in the startup world. You have to put some skin in the game, meaning you are personally financing the business. You are putting in not only the sweat equity, but you're putting in the time, you're putting in the financial cash flow to make it happen. This could mean leaving your job and going out of your savings account to fund your business. 90% of businesses are bootstrapped. So as amazing as all of these different opportunities that I outlined are, and some are exclusive to the United States, some are applicable for anywhere in the world, regardless of how you're going to fund your business, just keep in mind, a lot of people are funding it themselves. And if you can be frugal, and if you can take the risk, the financial uncertainty is unbelievable. I know. If you can fund it yourself, you will be much better off, especially from the start. Most companies are bootstrapped to start. At MySwimPro, we didn't make any money, we didn't raise any money. For the first couple of years of the business, we were putting in our own time, sweat equity, not making any money, because that's what it takes to be as frugal as possible. It makes you way more efficient. And when you're more efficient, you control your own destiny. You're not accountable to any investors. You own 100% of the company, and you control the financial direction. After all, you're paying for it out of your own pocket. So I hope this video was helpful. Make sure if you enjoyed it, give us a big like and subscribe. 10 different ways that you can fund your business, whether it's a restaurant or a technology company, B2B, SaaS software, whatever it is. Let me know in the comments what you're working on and how you're funding your business. Wishing you the best of luck. Keep hustling.